Hey, Sprocketers, welcome back to another episode of Sprocket Talk brought to you by Impulse Creative. I'm your boy, George B. Thomas, and I'm super excited because today we're going to talk about community, we're going to talk about advocacy, we're going to talk about reciprocity, and I'm even more excited because I have my friend, my pal, my coworker on today's interview. That's right, let me bring him on stage. Mr. Dan Moyle, how are you doing today?
George, my man. I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited. Happy, beautiful day to us.
It
And
is.
dude, I'm stoked to be here with you, my friend.
It's going to be a blast. We're going to give a lot of value to the folks. Folks, stick around because we've got a lot of questions. We're talking about onboarding and why some of this conversation might go to HubSpot onboarding. I want you to realize your company and the onboarding process that you have, or by the way, may not have and need to build after this interview, can be truly important and life changing for your business, your employees, and those people that you're trying to serve. So, Dan, before we dive into that side of the conversation, though, I do want to ask a question because you have been in this HubSpot world for, well, let's just call it a few years. Because if I say how many years it is, you might feel old, but for a while, right? So, what do you love about it? What makes the HubSpot inbound kind of ecosystem so amazing?
So much, man. I don't even know where to start. So one of the things I love about it is besides like the strategy and philosophy of inbound and how we can just make the world a better place by just doing better marketing. Like sounds so big and altruistic, but in all reality, like it's just so cool. When I got into this back in, and I'll go ahead and date myself. Why not? 2010 is when I got into this. Started with HubSpot, started doing marketing. I came out of TV news production into marketing. So similar as far as storytelling goes, but a whole different world. And what I loved about it was the fact that I could think about helping to spread the message of a business. At the time, just one business. Now I'm with a partner, of course, Impulse Creative. But thinking about spreading the message of a business without interrupting their day, without trying to just spray and pray with advertising that has no metrics behind it and just like, well, let's throw this on TV and see what happens, or billboards or whatever. Now there's so much we can do with data. There's so much we can do with technology. I loved that. The other side of that, besides the tools and the strategy and all that, was just the community. Man, when I joined the HubSpot world, I felt welcome right away. I've made friends through this software. Like, really, a software, a business has helped me make friends, dude. Truly, it's changed my life. And so, the informal community that was there, and now fast forward 11 years, and the formal community that is continuing to develop is just amazing. So there's just so much I love about it, man.
Yeah, the community is crazy cool. I have to agree with everything that you said. You know, Dan, it's interesting. Usually, when I do these interviews, it's somebody that's not part of our team. So I ask the question, who are you? What do you do? Where do you do it? Well, we know that you do it at Impulse Creative. That's a no
Yeah.
brainer. But maybe talk to because I don't know if a lot of folks watching this interview will actually know what you do at Impulse Creative, but then also share a little bit about the man, the myth, the legend, Dan Moyle. Like, what makes you tick? And just kind of wax poetic on that for a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So the man, the myth, the legend, Dan Moyle is my uncle, Dan, because he's a better man than I am. But anyway, so I'm Dan. I am right now the technical title is HubSpot specialist at Impulse Creative. But what that entails, like it encompasses a whole lot, right? So what that entails is I'm an onboarding specialist for brand new HubSpot clients. Impulse, you and I have the opportunity, George, the privilege to bring new HubSpot users into the world of HubSpot, teach them how to use the tool, teach them some strategies behind it, teach them some of the why, the how, all that good stuff. I love it. So I'm kind of a teacher, I guess, which is funny because way back in high school, years and years ago, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And God bless the teachers because I didn't become one because I know I couldn't handle it. But now I get to teach business people, professionals, on how to use this really cool software. So that's what I do. I also do some content creation. I used to be our marketer. I am a marketer at my heart. I'm a content creator, a writer, a video person, a podcaster. Love all that stuff. So I do some of that for us as well. And now, like, and we've got a marketer on staff now that gets to help direct what we do, and I love that. So I get to be guided instead of just like set free, which is probably a good thing for me. I need some boundaries. So yeah, so that's what I do for Impulse. I get to teach people how to use HubSpot and help their business grow smarter in their next stage of growth, and I love doing that for businesses. Yeah, so that's that. And as far as me, I'm just like I said, I came from TV. I'm a podcaster. I'm a blended family dad. Love to ride my Harley. Love to watch the Red Wings. That's me, I guess. I got
Yeah,
2 kids, man, 15 and 16, and they're amazing.
yeah, you got to throw in that ride in the Harley thing. I love your Facebook and seeing you on trips here and there.
Yeah.
Speaking of a trip, you have been on a trip. You alluded when you were talking about why you love the HubSpot community, inbound community. You know, it's been 10 years. Since we're talking about onboarding for the rest of this conversation, and when I say that, I mean like first starting with HubSpot or maybe even getting a fresh start with HubSpot with some onboarding. How did you kind of fall into HubSpot or inbound? Like, there's got to be a story behind it.
There is, and I love it. So back when I was a news producer for a morning show in my local market here in Southwest Michigan, which was a top 40 market, so pretty good sized. Uh, but I was doing the morning newscast, and it was okay, but I was beginning to not like it, and I wanted to get out of news for a lot of reasons. And this was, of course, way back, like I said, like 11, 12 years ago now, whatever it was. So long before the current climate of news and everything else going on, where they do even more with even less. But it was just I wanted to get out, and I started to see this move toward using social media. Twitter was brand new back then. We were just starting to use Facebook a little bit, and I helped launch like the Facebook page for the news station. I helped launch the Twitter account for the news station. I was using Twitter quite a bit. Side note: I actually got in trouble for tweeting during my shift at one point. Overnights, my boss was like, "You're tweeting. That's personal." I said, "No, I'm building an audience." Now, fast forward, they require people to be on Twitter. Whole different story. But anyway, but I saw this development in the world of marketing and advertising and PR and communications, where websites and social media were becoming way more prevalent. We were beginning to put audio on the web before they were called podcasts, which developed into podcasts. I launched one of those back at the station, and I thought I want to take these skills. Um, I've read enough press releases and news releases to know how to write a better one. And then all these other things going on. I thought I want to take this to a business. I want to get into marketing or PR or something. I didn't know exactly what to do. That's what I wanted. I started to look around at some of the companies around me. Kellogg, Rice Krispies, Frosted Flakes, right? Stryker, a medical device company that is worldwide and huge, and a couple others. And they didn't want me. They didn't see I didn't tell my story well, I guess, or whatever. But because I only had an associate's degree, I didn't have a master's in marketing or a bachelor's. I didn't have 10, 20 years of experience. I just had what I thought was good real life experience. So at the same time, my future boss at a mortgage company was reading a book called Inbound Marketing by two guys named Brian and Darmesh. And in that book, they say, if you want to do all this stuff and create this strategy and create content, don't hire just another marketing person. Nothing wrong with marketing, folks, but hire somebody who can create content, like a TV news producer. Now I mean, dude, like if that's not written in the stars, I don't know what is. The person reading it went to his second in command or whatever and said, "This is what I want to do, blah, blah, blah." And she said, "I know somebody. The woman who does my nails, her ex-husband is a TV news producer, and I think he wants to get out." And so, man, it all aligned, and it was a big part of some master plan. And she reached out and said, "Do you want to apply for this job?" And I did, and I got it. And so that was how I got into marketing. The first day, actually, even before I started, like during the interview process, they had me do a demo of HubSpot and ask me if they should buy it. I'm thinking, I don't even work for you yet. How do what? I don't know. But I said, yeah, you should. Even if you don't hire me, buy this thing and do this thing because this is amazing. And that was back long before like Operations Hub and Sales Hub and all the things that HubSpot does now. So yeah, anyway, that was my story. I got into it through that. Thankfully, Brian and Darmesh and David Meerman Scott, who wrote the intro and did some research with them, all said, hire a news producer. And then I didn't burn my bridges, so she knew who I was.
Yeah, I love how the stars can align with these special stories and just like things end up turning out. Now, what I will say, Sprocketeers, if you're getting value out of this, if you're digging this interview, then make sure you smack that like button with authority. And also, as we move in to talk about, we'll use the words HubSpot onboarding. I want you to realize for your company, there's going to be many tips, tricks, pieces of value that if you just remove the word HubSpot in around what we're talking about and implement it to your onboarding process, it's going to add value to what you're trying to do. So, Dan, let's go ahead and start
Yeah.
diving into specifics. When you think about the term onboarding, or in this conversation, HubSpot onboarding, um, what the heck is it?
So to me, George, onboarding means going from somebody who doesn't know something to somebody who knows it. Whether it's software onboarding or just a customer onboarding. When you talk about separating the word HubSpot from onboarding, I think about my experience with an agency before us, which was a podcast interview marketing agency where we brought thought leaders onto podcasts, almost like a PR firm would, and when we would onboard customers, what did that look like? Welcoming them to the company, giving them the right equipment to be a great podcast guest, teaching them how to be a guest, all these things, and then getting to know them, asking them questions about their business, what does success look like, what kind of shows you want to get on, that kind of thing. We dialed in this onboarding process to make it feel welcoming, to empower them to do great, to grow smarter. Even back then, at that different motto, but same idea. And so that's what onboarding means to me. How do we take someone from zero to hero, to steal a phrase from a good friend of mine, and get them up and running on this journey of whatever it is? Again, for us, it's HubSpot, but we even do it with our own clients who are maybe redesigning a website or launching a PRM or doing something else. But yeah, onboarding is going from zero to hero to me.
Yeah, one of the funnest things I think we get the opportunity to do outside of HubSpot onboarding is Hub LMS onboarding, where people
Yeah.
are actually implementing a learning management system into their company. So, Dan, again, I could ask this question in this way for the Sprocketeers. I could be like, so why is onboarding important to the people who is viewing this and their users? But I'm just going to ask it and really start to dive into HubSpot onboarding. Why is HubSpot onboarding important to HubSpot users? Like, and I'm talking about just getting started or have been using it for a while. What say you?
I mean, I think for me, what I think about is some of the conversations you and I have had, and we've had with our boss Remington, our co-founder and CEO. Um, it's important because time spent with us, it's usually around 3 months. That time spent with us talking strategy, asking questions, diving into things, playing in the tool, to use some air quotes, because we're doing actual work, not just playing. But we get to play in the sandbox. That time spent together saves them heartbreak over the next 6, 12, 18 months of fumbling through it, right? HubSpot is a complex enough system. Even way back when it first started, there was a lot to learn, and even now, even more so. Even today, it's complex enough that you don't want to just be handed this thing and go, "Oh, good luck." You want to get up and running. Otherwise, you're going to fumble and have all kinds of heartbreak of, "Oh, why didn't I set up some folder structure in my lists? Why is my naming convention in my emails so off? I can't ever find the email that I want. How do I find that file?" And all this kind of stuff. And so that stumbling, bumbling can be brought down to a minimum when you do something like onboarding and walk them through as somebody who's experienced, before you are. So that's why I think it's so important.
And so let's dig in a little bit deeper to that. So let's even say there's somebody that's been using HubSpot for a year, 2 years. Is there a reason why they might actually like want to do almost like a reboot and
Yeah.
go through an onboarding process again? Talk me through that.
Yeah, great question. Absolutely, I think there is. One of the scenarios might be just understanding a different hub, maybe even using HubSpot Marketing Hub for the last couple of years, and now all of a sudden your sales team wants to get into it, and before you go do that, you want to better know Sales Hub, or you buy it and you're like, okay, I've been using HubSpot for a while. Now I've got Sales Hub. What are sequences? How's that different from workflows? What about playbooks? If you're in like Marketing Hub Enterprise or whatever, there's different tools that you may not understand how to use. And certainly going to like HubSpot Academy can show you some stuff, no doubt about it. Just searching Sprocket Talk, we've got a ton of videos on how to use certain things. That's fine. That DIY teaching can certainly take you far, but I still think that working with somebody who has been through it, who has resources available, who can just help you find certain things. George, I think one of my favorite things is when you've talked about, I don't have to know everything, but if I can show them where to find it, that's valuable in and of itself. So just being able to be that almost that Google go-between, like it sounds silly, but I mean, that's really helpful and valuable. So yes, I think there is definitely value, even if you've been using HubSpot for a couple of years. If you're either upgrading to a different level of HubSpot, or if you're going into a different HubSpot tool, or even if you're just like, I've been using HubSpot Marketing Pro for a couple of years, and I think I know what I'm doing, but I could use like 60 days of weekly meetings with somebody just to make sure and check out my workflows, see what's broken, making sure I'm doing imports the correct way. I've got way too many properties, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think there's definitely value in connecting with someone who's been there in order to have a deeper conversation. Maybe not call it onboarding, but certainly an advisory type scenario.
Yeah, I definitely like that, like being an advisor to people who are just trying to maximize 100% ROI out of the tool that they're using on a daily basis. Dan, I love that you mentioned complexity in that last statement when you're going through there, because I am super curious, because I think we can learn from others' mistakes. And honestly, I'd much rather learn from others' mistakes than to make my own mistakes. So
Yes.
that's why I love asking this question. What's one of the biggest issues that you've seen HubSpot users face, whether they be new or existing, as an onboarding specialist? Like, what have you seen? Like, talk us through the train wrecks that have kind of occurred in front of you.
I think one of the biggest reasons for the train wreck is the connective tissue, right?
Hmm.
I can show you how to build an email in the drag and drop tool. That's cool. You can go look at that in one of our Sprocket Talk videos. Okay, no problem. But then how does that connect to a workflow? Or if I can build a workflow to change a property or to send a few emails, but how do they get there? Right? What is a conversion path? What about going from a workflow to becoming, once they convert into an opportunity or a sales qualified lead, now what? Who gets notified? Why would I start a sequence with somebody instead of putting them in a workflow? So that connective tissue is where, like, again, I think where our expertise comes in, right? Our experience, our knowledge, our conversations. Man, I love seeing in our Slack channels at Impulse all the conversations about HubSpot questions. Number one, the humility to be able to ask the question to the team and not feel like you're a dum dum, like, well, I should know this. No, like, there's a ton of stuff we don't know. But those conversations teach each other and sharpen us, and we're able to take that and bring it to somebody who isn't seeing that connective tissue. And so I think that's um, one of the biggest pros to working with somebody outside of your sphere.
Yeah, Dan, I love that. And the thing is, when I think about this whole onboarding conversation, and whether it be HubSpot or just onboarding in general, I really feel like we're meeting people that at a time of maybe the most difficult time that they might be facing. What I mean by that is, usually they're trying to fix two or three problems, right? They
Mm.
they have issues with their business. They're coming onto HubSpot and they want to use that. Even if we back up and don't call it HubSpot onboarding and talk about existing users, HubSpot training, they're looking for something because they have a pain point. And now it's your job to actually get them through that pain, that difficult point in their time, which can be challenging.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I'm super curious, like, there has to be something that connects in there. Like, why do you love being a HubSpot onboarding specialist or HubSpot trainer?
Because the biggest part of my job is talking. And I love to hear myself talk. No, that that's what my wife would tell you. No, what I love about it, George, is the idea that I'm helping somebody through that difficult time, and I get to see that light bulb go off of, oh, I can use automation to save myself time in order to go speak to my clients more or build more of a client base, build a bigger audience, or do whatever. Like, being able to see that light bulb go off is awesome. One of our mottos at Impulse Creative is to help companies in their next stage of growth grow smarter. Something to that effect. I probably butchered that. Sorry, Molly. But that's our idea, right? We want to help companies grow smarter. We want to help them in their next stage of growth, whatever that looks like. And the fact that I get to be a part of that and teach them how to use this really cool software, this amazing strategy of inbound, whether it's marketing or sales or service, um, and then see them make a difference in the world. You know, I love some of the like Twitter accounts that show bad advertising. All right, and I love just to read the memes of bad ads or whatever and make fun of them and stuff. But I also can't stand getting robocalls. I don't like ineffective commercials that just don't make any sense, like or whatever, or getting spammed by companies that like dude, you're doing it wrong. So what I love is that I get to go make a difference in the world when it comes to that kind of stuff and help those companies make that choice. So that's why I love what we do in general at Impulse, but that's why I love being able to do that for HubSpot customers.
Yeah, Sprocketeers, if you want to make a difference in the world, smack that like button. I'm just kidding, but you can smack the like button. I'm just
Good.
saying. Here's the thing. I love clarity, Dan. Right?
Mm.
There's you have to have clarity. And one of the things that when somebody's watching this interview, they may do next, the next step, that next phase would be Googling HubSpot onboarding. So, what I want you to do is take a couple minutes to kind of explain the difference in your mind, the difference between HubSpot onboarding at Impulse Creative and just general HubSpot onboarding. Like, is there a difference? Are they the same? Talk us through that.
Oh, I mean, there's definitely a difference. Shoot, man, there's probably a difference between how I do it and how you do it, right? Like there's always going to be differences. I think for us at Impulse, one of the biggest differences that I think I see now, I haven't gone through onboarding with other partners or with HubSpot itself in many many years. It's been a long long time. But what I believe is at my core for us is that we truly care about your experience. We want to see you become successful, and not that others don't, but I just know that we truly believe that. We've put systems in place to be able to make it smooth, and we're always iterating. I can remember when we first started doing onboardings, when I first started doing them alongside you, George, because you were an early pilot, an early adopter of this, and working with HubSpot, uh, one of the very first ones, I think. Our system was fine, but when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this email is a lot. So even just seeing that very first email of, hey, welcome to onboarding, here's the 15 things you should know and do and blah, blah, blah. We talked and we said, that it does feel like a lot. Why don't we do this next? And we split it up. And then we turned around and started to automate everything. We're like, hey, we got these automation tools, make this automated. And then we realized it wasn't working. It wasn't working for our customers, right? They were missing emails. It was going to spam. It just wasn't the right timing, whatever it wasn't very personal. And so we stopped the automation. We created a system in place with some email templates, shout out to HubSpot tools, and then workflows to automate tasks to remind us for things. So we didn't drop the ball and drop the spinning plates because of all the clients we have. But we took our process and made it more human. We made it more helpful. We were humble enough and happy, see what I did there, to make this happen. So I think that's, you like that?
I did. I like that. I like that. Not to jump in and interrupt, but the fact that you just tied in happy, helpful, humble human into this interview,
on,
bonus points right there, my man. So continue on though.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's what sets us apart. Like other partners in the ecosystem are great. We have friends that are our partner owners and business owners and so forth. So this is not a slam to any of them, of course. I just know that, man, you and I, we bleed orange. We bleed HubSpot. We believe so deeply in this tool that we want our system to reflect that. And so that's one of the things. And I think the other thing too is that, the humility, right? You and I have been using HubSpot between the two of us for 20 years, we'd call it, right? 11 years for me, 10 years for you, whatever. We know some ish. We also work for somebody who is ridiculously smart and creatively smart and innovative, Remington Begg, who makes things happen with HubSpot that even HubSpot goes, what? So we have a deep bench. But even with that, the humility to know that we don't know everything, that we go in with a curiosity mindset, a learn up mindset for our learning ops team, and we learn from our clients and apply that to the next client. I might learn something from a client that I go, oh, that is pretty cool. Why don't I apply it to somebody else? So that diversity of clientele really helps too. So I think those are some of the things that set us apart from other onboardings. And then the final thing is working with somebody, anybody is better, I think, than just doing it yourself and fumbling through.
Yeah, can I get a hashtag to always be learning? I'm just saying an amen or whatever, a hallelujah, because you should like that learner's mentality, that curiosity, which by the way, not a lot of people know. My spirit animal is Curious George, a little crazy, a little curious. That's how I like to be in life. Dan, here's the thing. And I love where this is going. I love how the interview is going. I'm super curious though, because I know Sprocketeers might be watching this, and even if it's like, somebody who's been using HubSpot for a while, so maybe we call it HubSpot training or HubSpot onboarding training, whatever we want to call it. How do they know if they're a right fit? Like who works best, or who do we work best with, or like what should they be seeing in their portal that's making them a little bit nervous that they might want to re-engage in some training? Like, what are your thoughts there?
Man, that's a good question. I haven't thought of that one before. Um, I mean, I think that first of all, a learner's mindset, right? If you look at your portal and you say, doesn't feel right. I feel like I can be getting more out of this. That's a red flag, so to speak. Like that's an early indicator that you're probably ready for some training, at least. I think another thing is if you're seeing problems in your portal, right? If you're thinking, okay, I just don't quite understand how to see this data and tell this story. That's a good place for HubSpot reporting, right? And full transparency, we're working on that in the background of a HubSpot reporting course at the time of this recording, so that should be coming out soon. But like, so if you see that problem, you think I just don't quite know. Now, yeah, you can go to the HubSpot knowledge base and find something, most likely, probably even HubSpot Academy and find something. But if you're thinking that doesn't quite do it for me, that personal interaction of training could very well be it. I think another thing is if it just feels cluttered, right? So here's the thing, man. I've got teenage kids. I go into their rooms and they know where stuff is. They look around and go, "It's fine. There's no food on the ground. They're like it's clean enough." And I'm like, "Y'all, I can't find anything in this room." If you look at your portal like a teenager's room and you think, "I don't know what lists are where, or why we have all these forms, or why these files all look like weird naming," like I just don't. That's a good place to start. So if you got some problems, um, yeah, those are all good ones. And I think too, like a good fit as far as a company goes, what I've seen us where I've seen us excel as an agency in general, been here a few years now, is if you want truly someone to come alongside you, walk beside you, teach you as you're going, learn from you, be a true partner. As cliche as that sounds, if you're looking for a true partnership, an extension of your marketing department, an extension of your operations team, an extension of your sales and BDR teams, whatever that looks like in your business, uh, you want somebody to walk alongside you and just teach and work with you and help make you successful. That kind of humility and desire to grow, that's a great fit for us.
See, I love that you went in that direction because, Dan, one of the things that I remember historically, we started talking about with the learning ops team, consultant, coach, like this whole
Yeah.
conversation of like what do we want to be? And you actually brought up the word advisor. And what I want you to do is wax poetic to the Sprocketeers on kind of your thought of this mindset of an advisor pertaining to, like an onboarding system.
I mean, I got to give credit to Antonio, our growth strategist, our sales guy. I hadn't given a whole lot of thought to the difference between consultant, coach, advisor. I just know that I love to teach. And so he and I were talking one day, and he came from Gartner, and they talked there about being an advisor versus consultant. And so Antonio kind of put in my head this idea that consultants tend to be doers. You bring in a consultant to look at your system, make some changes, and do some stuff. An advisor is someone who comes in and says, "Well, here's what I see." They offer their perspective and their experience and their expertise and so forth, and and help you, right? They encourage you. They show off what needs to be done. They teach. A coach is kind of more. They ask a ton of questions. Like I had a business life coach for a while, Sarah, and asked me a ton of questions, helped me gain clarity. But it was mostly me doing the work and her just kind of asking the right questions. And so I feel like at different times in our relationship with our onboarding clients and any of our clients, we are a consultant or advisor or coach or all three. What I see for onboarding in particular is an advisor, because I think that's the person, that's the role, that's the title, for lack of a better word. That's not a job title, but like that's the idea that I'm going to advise you with strategy and tactics. For onboarding in particular with HubSpot, what we do as an agency, as a partner, is we have the client drive So they sign into their HubSpot. We share the screen. We talk them through and bark orders at them, always with please as the underlying thing. Please go to this. But we have them drive, and we're teaching and advising. And that's where I think advisor comes into play for me, is that I'm not giving a demo. I'm not showing off my screen and doing all the and having them just sit back and fall asleep on me. I'm actually walking alongside them and showing them things. And when that light bulb goes off, man, it's magic.
Yeah, I love this conversation, and I want to dive like another layer deep into this,
Yeah.
because I think what we're having sort of when we get to this coaching, consulting, advising conversation is really, um, it's a trust conversation. But the question that I want to ask you is,
It's good.
how important is reciprocity and community between the advisor and the HubSpot users, or remember, folks, users for a different onboarding process? That they're advising, right? So how important is reciprocity and community? And I'm even going to give you a second part of this to maybe just like dovetail into after you talk us about how important it is. Maybe like one or two tips that you use to build that reciprocity and community with the people that you're advising.
So I think about it this way. I'm a member of the HubSpot community in general. I'm in literally the community.hubspot.com. On social media, I talk about HubSpot. I've been wearing my swag for 11 years. I've been going to Inbound every single year since even before it was called Inbound. I'm just a member of that community. Being a member of that community automatically builds a little bit of, at least a little bit of trust with those clients. Oftentimes, and George, I know you hear this as well, being such the face of Sprocket Talk, when we get on a call with somebody and they go, "Oh yeah, I've seen your stuff. Great. I know that you know what you're doing." That's huge. Just being a member of that community and being a giving member of that community is huge. Um, and I think that for me, when you say reciprocity, is that the right word? When you say that, George, I think of reciprocation between HubSpot and me, right? And that helps me build the community and the trust with them, where I can then go continue to build that trust with our clients. And what I mean is, for instance, Christina in the community is an amazing human. We just have conversations. She will like or retweet my tweets, for instance, not even always about HubSpot, right? She just might interact with me as a human being. And I take that to the level of the clients too. And so while we talk business all the time, I also just communicate with them as humans, right? Prime example, a brand new client just recently this month. I learned that he is in a punk band. I love punk music. I downloaded his music and now I'm listening to his stuff. And now like we can talk personal about things and as humans, and it just builds that human to human trust. And I think that layer adds to the trust of the business to human trust of being in the HubSpot community. So that's where my mind goes when you ask about reciprocity and community.
I love this. And by the way, shout out to Christina Garnett because she is amazing in the HubSpot community and what she does. And if you're not part of the community, go over, sign up. There's some really smart people in the community. I'm there too, but there's some smart people in the community. And it's funny because I love this conversation that you're having, Dan, about like almost friendship or outside of like the HubSpot or even the onboarding conversations, because I do think that this is another thing that advisor leans into is that like you can talk about anything. And even when we're talking about HubSpot onboarding, like it leans into many times. I've watched some of your videos, mine, and I'm not talking about ones on YouTube. I'm talking about like our training videos that we do with people. Like
Yeah.
we end up leaning into other business, sales, marketing, service strategies, even though we're talking about how to use the click of a SaaS tool, and so that's fun, and having that freedom is amazing.
Yeah.
Somebody's watching this, they're thinking about building an onboarding process, or they're thinking about getting some HubSpot onboarding or HubSpot training. What are some words of wisdom that you want to leave them with on maybe it's about getting the maximum ROI out of the software, or some major hurdles that you've gone through that you want to tell them to watch out for? I'll let you go wherever you want to go, but what are some words of wisdom that you would leave them with?
My first thought was as you were beginning to ask that, I was of course already, as we do as humans, thinking one step ahead, thinking uh, what you're going to ask. And where I thought you were going is if they're going to set up their own onboarding at their own company, what should they think about? And then you start talking about actual HubSpot. So I'm going to go in two directions here, George.
Beautiful.
If you're thinking about your own onboarding experience with your company or something else you're doing, think about it from the customer perspective. Even just this morning, I had a conversation with our CEO, Remington, and he brought up the idea that it's not just about what makes it better for us as the onboarding people, us as the business. Where are they at? Right? You said it earlier, George. They're in this moment of excitement and also a little bit of trepidation, possibly because this is big software. They're busy already getting a ton of emails. Think about the onboarding experience from their perspective. Why are they excited? Should they be excited? Should they be nervous? Are they nervous? How can you communicate with them? How can you build that trust? How can you humanize it and just build that relationship? From there, I think it's a lot about operations then, right? Put those systems and processes in place that will help make that happen. Whether that's using a tool like HubSpot to create tasks, so you remember that when this stage is reached, you have to send this next email or whatever it looks like, using sequences, using whatever. Like the tools will come after the strategy, which comes after the thinking about it from the customer perspective. That to me is the onboarding like success story. Now, if you're thinking about HubSpot onboarding and how to get the maximum ROI out of your training, out of your tool in general, I think my word of wisdom is humble. Go into it with a humility that maybe you don't know everything. You're a very smart person. You watching or listening, you're awesome. You are smart. You are powerful. You've got this. Also, you may not know everything, right? I don't like to walk into a room and think that I'm the smartest person in the room. If I think that, I got to be knocked down at a peg or 7. I walk in with that humility of I'm here to learn, right? I might have used Marketo in the past, or I use Salesforce already, Marketing Cloud, Pardot, whatever. But HubSpot's different enough that maybe the tool is different, or maybe the strategy is a little bit different, right? You might be using, Salesforce and having leads and accounts and contacts and like, what about in HubSpot? It's only humans and businesses. And then from there, we can differentiate and delineate down into a segment of the life cycle stage or where they are in the sales process or whatever. So there might be a different strategy. So that humility, I think, and that learner's mentality is huge. I think that alone will take you far in your onboarding journey.
Yes, those are some good words. Dan, if people want to reach out to you, if they have questions, where do you want to send them?
Okay, so this is going to sound super ego. Just Google Dan Moyle. I'm on Twitter a ton at Dan Moyle. I am on the Impulse Creative website. You can find my LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. Connect with me there and tell me that you heard me on Sprocket Talk, and let's talk business. Instagram. I just launched a TikTok not too long ago. I haven't done anything yet, but I'm gonna. But yeah, I'm in social at Dan Moyle. Very easy to find.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Dan, thanks for taking the time to do this interview with us. Hey, Sprocketeers, smack that like button with authority. Remember to be a happy, helpful, humble human, and we'll see you in the next video.